Welcome to Learner's Planet, my dear children. Children, in the previous session about air and water, we discussed about air and atmosphere, and in today's session we will discuss more about air, that is the properties of air and somewhat introduction to water. Right? So let us start with this session. Yes, children, as you know that what is actually air? Yes, it is a mixture of many gases, right? Nitrogen, oxygen. It majorly constitutes nitrogen and oxygen and 1% of other gases, right? But do you know that what are some of the properties of air? Yes, air is very much grateful and important to us. Air can be greatly compressed. Compressed means, let us see one example through which we can say that air can be greatly compressed. Just imagine that all the air in a space as big as a house can be squeezed into a small tank. So we can squeeze the air into a small tank. That means we can squeeze the air from a big space to a small place or a small space. On the other hand, air can expand almost indefinitely, right? So just imagine if all the air were removed from the inside of the house, which was present in the house, that is a big house, means when it was present in the house, air occupied large space, and then 1 cubic foot of air were supplied where the air would expand throughout the building. That means air is actually present in the larger space and then it can be compressed, means it can be squeezed into a small space. So we can say that air can expand also and it can contract also, right? If we remove the air from a big space and only some amount of air is supplied to some small space, then the air would contract, and if we are supplying giving more space, then air will occupy more space. That means it will expand throughout that place. So it can be compressed as well as we can say that air can expand also. So this is one such great property of the air, which can expand and which can be compressed, right? So air can be a very good or the brain bender for the scientist. After all, we cannot see it, we cannot taste the air, and even if we try to reach out and touch it, we cannot touch the air, right? We cannot reach up to the air, right? So there are some people who wondered the same thing, that can we touch the air, can we reach the air? No, it is not possible. But we can understand the properties of air by some examples, right? Okay, so first what we discussed was that air can be greatly compressed and it can be expand also, and it can expand also, and even air also has weight. And one way with which we can tell that air exists is by observing some of the things. For example, air can fill a balloon, and when it is in the form of wind, it can move leaves of the plants and it can also blow our hair around, right? So we can say that air is present in such forms, and we can feel this by such examples, right? So here is a very quick fun experiment that will better explain us that air has weight and air can be compressed. So what is actually air? It will explain the property of the air. So let us understand, let us learn about that experiment. Yes. Okay, so this concept of air, property of air, can be understood with the help of an experiment. Take a lit candle and a glass jar. right? And place a short candle upright and light it about 10 inches behind the jar, right? As you can see in the picture. Okay, now the flame should be entirely centered behind the jar as shown in the picture. Now blow hard on the jar on the opposite side of the candle so that the jar is directly in the front of you with the candle directly behind it. So what will happen if we will do this? If we will keep the candle about 10 inches behind the jar, and if we will place a short candle upright, and if we will light it, what will happen? Yes, can you just think that if we will blow hard on the jar on the opposite side of the candle, then what can happen, right? Will anything happen? Will the candle flame stay the same as it was? Will the candle flame will be same when we blow hard on the jar when it is on the opposite side of the candle? What happens when we blow on the jar? What happens to the candle? Yes, the candle should go out immediately. If it doesn't move, then move a little bit forward so that you can get closer to the back of the jar, and now blow on the jar. Now what will happen? Did the air travel through the jar? Yes, it traveled through the jar. What happened was that the air separated when it hit the sides of the jar, and it flowed around the curves of the jar to come together again and form a stream that will hit the candle. And then we can say that the candle blow out or it go out immediately, right? So we cannot see it, but it happened. Why this happened? Because the air separated, right? So this is one such property of air. What happens actually? That when air comes in contact with any of the objects, it flows out or it flows around the contours of the object it hits, like we discussed in the previous experiment of the jar, the glass jar, right? When we blow on the jar, what happened? That it flows out around the contours of that jar because the air hits the jar, creating forces, right? And these forces are very much helpful, and this is the principle behind the kite which lives in the air, right? Or the air which lifts the kites and it can fly in the air. And also this is the same principle behind the blowing out of candles, right? Just remember your last birthday, right? Whenever you blow your candle, what happens? Yes, you blow air and air gets separated in all the directions, and when it gets separated, then what happens? When you will blow air on the candle, on the light candle, what will happen? The candle will blow off, right? So this is, the candle will go off, right? So this is one such property of air, that whenever it comes in contact with objects, it will flow around the contours of the object, it will hit, and it will create the force that can lift kites, and it can blow out the candles also in your birthday party, right? So this is the property this property is what makes flying a plane also possible. Have you ever given thought that how this aeroplane flies in the air? This is the same property of air, or this is the principle behind the flying of a plane. Because air has weight, it pushes on everything around it in all the directions, and that is why this pressure or this weight is actually which pushes on everything around it in all the direction is termed as or is called as air pressure. So this is the air pressure which is present in the air, which does all such things, right? So we can say that the world we live in is covered with air. Although we cannot see it, but the air in our atmosphere is actually present, and the Earth's gravity pulls this air to the planet's surface, to our Earth's surface. This is why we say that the air in the atmosphere is dense, or the densest near the ground, and the higher and higher we go, the thinner the air becomes. And that is why the air pushes on all the surfaces that it touches, right? And because of this, the aeroplane is able to fly so high in the air. So this is all because of the air, which has weight and occupies space, right? So this is the air pressure, right? Air pressure plays an important role in our day-to-day life or day-to-day activities. Like, for example, when we open a packet of milk, we make a small slit on one side and milk flows out slowly. You might have observed or noticed your mother doing this every day, opening a packet of milk. Just observe it if you haven't. If we cut another slit on the other side, then the milk flows out rapidly. Now how does this happen? When we make a small slit on one side, the milk flows slowly. But when we make another, or we cut another slit on the other side of the packet of the milk flows out rapidly. Why? This happens because air enters the packet from both the sides. The first slit which we made and the second slit which we made. And its pressure pushes the milk out of the packet. So more the pressure will be inside the packet of the milk, more the milk will come out of the packet. And this is the basic concept of the air pressure, right? Because of this air pressure, the milk is able to come out rapidly, right? So I hope you are clear with this example, right? Let us see some more examples. Let us discuss some more examples. Yes. If there were no air pressure, then you would not be able to fill up your fountain pens. Have you ever gave a thought? Yes, you would not be able to fill up your fountain pens. In the same way, even doctors would not be able to fill up a syringe. Why? Can you see here? Have you ever seen a syringe? Have you ever hold it in your hand? Yes. Doctors would not be able to fill up a syringe without air pressure. Why? Because whenever doctor pulls the cap of the syringe, what happens? Yes, the air which is present in the atmosphere, it will enter in, right? And when it will enter in, what will happen? First of all, what will the doctor do? Yes, it will place the needle in that medicine or in the solution which he or she, which the doctor wants to pour into the needle or into the syringe. Then what the doctor will do? Yes, first of all he will pull the cap, right? So when he pulls the cap, because of this, the air is coming inside, the air enters inside this syringe, and with the help of this air, the solution or the medicine or the liquid medicine will pour in, or it will fill in the syringe, right? So this is because of the air pressure that solution or the liquid is able to enter into the syringe when the doctor pulls the cap, right? And then finally the doctor will push the cap of the syringe to the patient's vein, right? And that medicine or that solution will be injected to the patient's body, right? So in this way the syringes are used by the doctors, but this is only possible when there is air pressure. If there will be no air pressure, then it would not have been possible for the doctors to fill up a syringe. So they are able to fill up because of the air pressure. Even drinking through a straw would not be even possible without air. Have you ever gave a thought while drinking cold drink or while having a cold drink, you use a straw, right? And when you place a straw inside that bottle of the cold drink, and whenever you start drinking, what happens? There is nothing in the straw, right? You are just placing it in the cold drink bottle, right? And whenever you suck the cold drink which is present in the bottle, whenever you suck it through the straw, because of the air pressure, because of the air which is now present in the straw, the cold drink is able to come up, and that is why whenever you suck, it will come into your mouth. So this is all possible because of the air pressure which is present inside the straw, and you are able to drink cold drink, right? Same way, even droppers also make use of the air pressure, right? So always remember all these examples, all these daily examples. Always notice and observe when you are drinking a cold drink, you are having a cold drink, or you are using fountain pen, or you are using a dropper, right? Okay, so this was all about air, atmosphere and air pressure. Now let us study something about water. So this is the introduction to water. Like air, water is also essential for life. Water is the only substance on the earth that is in the liquid form at the temperatures commonly found on the surface of our planet, the earth, right? So have you ever thought that why is water so important to life? Yes, it all has to do with the unique properties that water exhibits, right? The first property which we discussed, that it is in the liquid form at the temperature which is already found on the surface of our planet, right? Secondly, water is a universal solvent. Universal solvent means that is most of the substances can be easily dissolved into it. No other solvent is universal, or no other solvent is present in which most of the substances dissolves. Water is only the solvent, means it is only the liquid in which most of the substances get dissolved, that too easily. And this allows the water to carry nutrients to the cells and carry the waste away from them. In addition to this, water has the unique property of expanding as it freezes. As we discussed, children, that water has a unique property of expanding when it freezes, because water expands, becoming less dense, it becomes a frozen water, or the ice floats, right? This is very important because it protects the water underneath, isolating it from freezing. Imagine what would happen if water become more dense. Yes, if water will become more dense, it would sink, allowing other layer of the water to freeze, and eventually all the water across the entire surface of our planet would freeze, making the life impossible for us, right? So this is a unique property of water, of being expanding whenever it freezes, right? So whenever it expands, it becomes less dense, or it becomes less frozen, right? It will expand, right? So this is one such property of water. So as you know that the trees and even other living beings also need water. All the living things must have water to survive, whether they get it from the water fountain, or they get it from a rain cloud, or a little bottle which is present in our home, which we use, right? So without water, our body even would stop working properly. Water makes up more than half of our body weight, and a person cannot survive for more than a few days without it. Right? Why? Because our body has lots of important jobs or the functions, and it needs water to do many of these functions. For example, our blood, which contains a lot of water, it carries oxygen to all the cells of our body. So without oxygen, these tiny cells would die, or those tiny cells would die and our body would stop working. So water is very much important. Even our body does not get water only from the drinking water. Any fluid we drink will contain water, but water and milk are the best foods, right? Water is needed for the digestive juices, even for the urine, and we can bet that water is the main ingredient in the perspiration, right? We could probably tell if we have ever bitten into a peach or a plum and felt the juices dripping down our chin, right? So this is because the water is present inside it. Even the vegetables too contain a lot of water. Think of slicing of tomato from the garden, right? Or just squeeze the tomato, right? So what will happen? Lots of juice will come out. This is because some of the water content is present in it, right? So this was all about the water which the living beings need, without which living organisms cannot survive. Water is also important in other ways. Let us see that. Yes, the water that we use mainly comes from rivers, ponds, lakes and wells. Often dirt, sand, mud, germs, etc. make this water unfit for the consumption, because we cannot drink such water which consists of sand, dirt and germs. Otherwise we may fall ill, right? So this is unfit for the consumption. But we cannot say that water is only available in this place or in this place. It is present almost at every place, like in river, pond, lake, well, ocean, seas, etc. So if all these things are present in the water, then we call these substances like sand, dirt, mud and germs impurities. Why do we call it impurities? Because it is in the impure form. We cannot drink such water. That is why it is termed as impure form. And these particles which are present in the water are the impurities, right? So impurities are actually of two kinds: the soluble impurities and insoluble impurities. The soluble impurities are the ones that dissolve in the water. For example, salt. If we will add some salt to a glass of water, after some time you can see that salt has been dissolved in the water. So salt is considered as the soluble impurity that will dissolve in the water, right? And the difference between the soluble and insoluble is that insoluble impurities are the ones that do not dissolve in water. For example, sand and germs. Now you cannot add germs to the water, but you can just try an experiment of adding somewhat sand to a glass of water, and then if you will stir it, even if you will stir it, it will not be able to dissolve in the water. So sand is not able to dissolve in water, and that is why sand and germs are considered to be the insoluble impurities. So this is the main difference between the soluble and insoluble impurities, right? So always remember that impurities are of two kinds: soluble and insoluble, right? I hope that you enjoyed this session and learned somewhat about water. You got to know something about water, right? In the next session we will discuss that how can we remove such impurities from the water, and how can we get a purified form of water by doing some processes or by carrying out some processes, right? So we will meet in the next session. Till then, keep learning, keep enjoying. Thank you, children.